guys. The last 2 days, we've worked with simplifying radicals, right? We're still doing that. You can see the word simplify, still there. But we're including now adding, subtracting, and multiplying. Okay, so that's the 3 things we're going to do. The only one we're not going to do is division. We're not going to do division today. We're going to do adding, subtracting, and multiplying. So how do we do that when we're dealing with radicals? Okay, so first page is adding and subtracting. Okay, so adding and subtracting. So the first thing, so you can see, in between the radicals is a plus. That means we have to add them. Okay, but there's a certain way we have to add them. First thing we're going to do is simplify. So look at the radical. Simplify the radical. Look on the inside. If we can simplify them, simplify them. If you can't, leave them. What I mean by simplify is factor tree, look for pairs or triples or 4 of a kind. Okay? This one is a square root, so we're going to look for doubles. We're going to look for pairs. Okay? So 3 and 75. Well, 3 can't be broken down. 3 times 1. So 3 is already broken down as far as it can. So I'm going to circle that. 75 can be broken down, though. You can divide it by 5, divide it by 15, divide it by 25. Doesn't matter where you start, as long as you'll end up in the same. So it's 5 times 15. 5 can't be broken down anymore. 15 can, though. 5 times 3. So I'm going to go change 75 the way it looks. So the first one we couldn't break down. So that one's going to stay 8 square root 3. But 75 can be written differently. 75 has 2 5s and a 3. We're looking for pairs because this is square roots. Well, it does have a pair. It has a pair of 5s. So remembering from the other day, how many 5s can I take out? 1. Just 1, because there's only 1 pair. What is the 5 going to do with the 6? Multiply. Good. So that's going to be a positive 30 now. And it's just going to leave a root 3 left. Okay. Simplified. That's the first step. Second step, combine anything that's like. How do we know if it's like? If they have the same root attached to it. 8 has a square root of 3 attached to it. 30 has a square root of 3 attached to it. If they both have the same square root attached to it, they're like terms. So how do we add them? We only add the coefficients. So we're not going to add the 3's. We're only going to add the numbers in front. So you're only going to add 8 plus 30. 38. Square root 3 is going to stay that way. We don't add the coefficients. Well, we do add the coefficients. We don't add the numbers inside. Okay? But they're like terms. So we can't add 8 and 30. That's it. That's adding. The only difference with subtracting is that instead of adding at the end, we would subtract at the end. We're going to do that for the next one, for number 2. Number 2 is exactly the same. The only difference is it's subtraction. Okay? So each one of these guys has a negative 1 in front. They don't write it, but it's a negative 1 in front. Right? So the first thing we're going to do, see if we can simplify the radicals. We're looking for pairs. So I got 72 and I got 200. So I got to break down 72 and I got to break down 200. $72 is 9 times 8. 9 is 3 times 3. 8 is 4 times 2. And then 4 is 2 times 2. Okay, that's breaking down 72. Now I'm going to break down 200. 200 you can do 2 times 100, 4 times 50, 20 times 10. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter where you start. All it matters is that you multiply correctly. So 2 times 100. 100 is 10 times 10. 10 is 5 times 2. 10 is 5 times 2. So 200 has 2 5s and 3 2s. I'm going to go put those back in. Rewrite the problem, but instead of 72 and 200, I'm going to write what I broke it down. Okay, so 72 was 3 times 3 times 2 times 2 times 2. 200 was 5 times 5 times 2 times 2 times 2. Look for pairs. Each one of these guys has 2 pairs. It's got a pair of 3s, so 72 has a pair of 3s and a pair of 2s. So 1 3 can come out and 1 2 can come out. So if I got 1 3 and 1 2, what is that going to make on the outside? 6 times negative 1? Negative 6. Good. So it's going to be negative 6. And then that's just going to leave a square root of 2. This guy, 200, has got a pair of 5s and a pair of 2s. So I'll take out 1 5, take out 1 2. That makes 10 times negative 1. Negative 10. Last step, combine if you can. Well, they both have a square root of 2. So I'm going to combine them by adding or subtracting the coefficient. Negative 6 minus 10, negative 16. Done. So what if, let me give you a what if. What if we did that same steps, what if we did those same exact steps, except at the end here? Don't write this down. You don't have to write this down because I'm going to kind of change the problem. What if we had negative 6 square root of 2, and then I had negative 10, but I had a square root of 3 on the inside instead?
I think you could leave your answer like that.
There you go. Leave your answer like that. That's your answer. I can't subtract negative 16 and negative 10 because these aren't like terms. Right? So just like Alex said, you would leave it like that. That's what you would put into Delta Math or box your answer. That would be it. You're done. Can't combine those like terms. Okay? That's the only difference. You might see those sometimes. So I just wanted to show you those. Okay? That's adding and subtracting. The back is multiplication. Okay? So let's go to the back. Okay, so this is multiplication. I know you look on the inside and you see a subtraction and addition, but what we're doing here is we are multiplying this guy and this guy. I know it's multiplication because there's nothing on the inside there. There's nothing in between there. So we're multiplying the first set of parentheses with the second set of parentheses. This has got two terms. This one also has two terms. We've done this before. We use a 2x2 box. We've done that before. We did it last semester. So first thing I'm going to do is set up. So this guy has two terms. This guy has two terms. So we need a 2x2 box. So again, one of them is going to go, one of the two terms is going to go on top, one of them is going to go on the left. Doesn't matter which one, no. So I'll put on the top I'll put the first one. So the square root of 2 minus the square root of 5, and the negative square root of 5. And the other one's almost identical, it's just it's got a plus in front of the square root of 5. So how do I multiply? This is how you multiply. You multiply the insides with the insides and the outsides with the outsides. The outsides are called coefficients. The insides are called radicands. So this first one, right? Square root of 2 times the square root of 2. They're both inside. 2 and 2 are both inside the square root. So I can multiply them. So the square root of 4. Two and 5 are both on the inside as well. So I can multiply those to make square root of 10. But one of them had a negative 1 in front, right? So I got to put a negative 1 in front there. The other one's the same. Square root of 5 times the square root of 2. Square root of 10. And then the last one is going to be the same, negative 1, except this one's going to be the square root of 25, right? Because 5 times 5 makes square root of 25. Done with the multiplying. Next step, write down what I have. So I have a square root of 4. I have a negative 1 square root of 10. I have a square root of 10. And I have a negative 1 square root of 25. Those are the 4 things I had from the box. Step 2, simplify if you can. Let's start with the first guy. What is the square root of 4? That's a regular number, right? So I'm going to change that to 2. Next thing, the square root of 10. It's not on my list, but I'm going to see if it has any pairs, if 10 has any pairs to simplify. Let's see. Nope, 10 doesn't have any pairs. So it's going to stay the square root of 10. Same thing with this guy. Next one is 25, the square root of 25. That's 5. That's an actual number, right? 5. 5 times 5 makes 25. So I'm going to change that one to regular 5. So it's going to multiply with the negative 1 that was in front. So I get 2, negative 1 square root of 10, positive root 10 minus 5. Simplifying's done. Last step, combine like terms, just like we did on the front. 2, negative 5. Combine those, I get negative 3. these two guys are also like terms. The guys in green. They both have the same square root. So I'm not going to touch the tens. I'm going to add their numbers in front. So one of them has a negative 1. What does the other guy got? Positive 1, right? Positive 1. So what is negative 1 plus positive 1? 0. So those cancel each other out. So the only thing you're left with is regular negative 3. The roots canceled each other out. You don't have a root. Okay? That's essentially what we're doing. They change it up a little bit in the other examples, but that's essentially what we're doing. Okay? That's essentially how you multiply. All right. All right, let's do example number 4 now. Okay. So again, we have 2 terms and 2 terms. So I need a box. They're the same 2 terms in each of the parentheses. It's square root of 10 minus 7 and the square root of 10 minus 7. So it's not really, doesn't matter order. Okay. So let's do the first one. Square root of 10 times the square root of 10. Can I multiply those 2 10s to make 100? Yes, because they're both under the root. Negative 7 and the square root of 10. Can I multiply to make negative 70? No, I cannot. So what do I do?
Negative 7 square root.
Yeah, you just write them. This guy's going to go in the front. Negative 7 is going to go in the front. And 10 is just going to go in the square root. So negative 7 root 10. Because I can't multiply them. Because one's inside and one's not. Same thing on the next guy. Negative 7 root 10. And then the last one's negative times a negative makes positive 49. Multiplication done. Step 1 done. Step 2, simplify. So let's write down everything I got. All 4 spots of the box. So step 2 is all about simplifying. If we can, simplify. If you can't, don't. 100, square root of 100. What is the square root of 100? 10. So let's change that to 10. Can we break down, is there any pairs inside of 10? We did that on the last problem. There wasn't any pairs inside of 10, right? So those 10s are going to stay. Simplified as far as we can go. Last step, combine any like terms. Combine anything that's the same. Well, I got 10 and positive 49. I can add those together to make 59. Then I have these guys. They both have a square root of 10. So I can add their coefficients. Negative 7 plus a negative 7. Negative 14 root 10. Done. Okay, so the only thing about multiplying that's different than adding and subtracting is that first step, the box. Once you do the box, it just becomes the same type of problem. Okay. Okay, here we go. Number 5. So number 5, I don't like how they keep using 10. It's not always going to be the square root of 10. That'll change. Okay, but same thing. It's got 2 terms and 2 terms. This guy's got 2 terms, and this guy's got 2 terms. The negative 5 is by itself, and the negative 2 has a square root of 10 attached. The positive 1 is by itself, and there's a negative 1 there that's attached to square root of 10. So we're going to set up a box, 2 by 2 box. Okay. Multiply insides with insides, outsides with outsides. 1 and negative 5 are both on the outside. They don't have a root. They're not inside of a root, so I can multiply those. 1 and negative 2 are both outside of a root, so I can multiply those. 10 I can't multiply, so I just leave it the square root of 10. Same thing down here. Negative 5 times negative 1. Those are both not inside of a root, so I can multiply those. 10 is inside of a root, so I can't multiply it. Last one, same thing. Negative 1 and negative 2. I can multiply those to make 2. This time I can multiply the roots because they each have a root. 10 times 10 is 100. Step 1 done. Step 2, list everything I have. I got a negative 5. I got a negative 2 root 10, a positive 5 root 10, and a positive 2 root 100. Okay. So let's see if we can break down. Well, 10 again, I don't like if they use 10. They keep using 10, but we already know we can't break down 10 because we've done it the last 2 problems. So negative 5 is already, it's just going to stay negative 5. This guy is going to stay the same. This guy is going to stay the same. The last guy, square root of 100. What is the square root of 100? 10. So 10 is going to multiply times the 2 that was already out there. So I get negative 5 minus 2 root 10 plus 5 root 10 plus now 20. Step 3, combine any like terms. That would be positive 15. Those guys both have a root 10, so I can add their coefficients to make positive 3 root 10. Done. Okay. Okay, so we're going to do the last one together, and then I have one more problem to give you on page 24, and then we're done. Then we'll be done. Okay. All right, so what I want you to do on number 6 is set it up. Do first step. I want you to do the first step. Do step 1. Yeah, go ahead. Do the first step. Okay. So I can multiply -1 times positive 6 to make -6. I can multiply 6 times -2 to make -12. Root 6 is attached. -1 times positive 3 makes -3 with a positive 150 or a root 150 attached. And then the last one is -2 times 3, which is -6. This one's going to be root 900 because 150 times 6 is 900. Okay, wrote down everything I have. Step 2, break down any of these guys that I can. So the first one doesn't have a root, so -6 can just come on down. Square root of 6 in yellow. 6, does 6 have any pairs? No, it's just 3 times 2. So that one I'm going to leave. That one's going to stay. 150 though. 150, I'm pretty sure, definitely can be broken down. But I want to see how many pairs it has. So 150, 10 times 15, I think is the easiest place to start. 5 times 2. 3 times 5. So 150 has 5 times 5 times 3 times 2. Again, it's square root, so I'm looking for pairs. It's got a pair of 5s. So how many 5s can I take out? 1 5. What is that going to do with the -3? Multiply. So it's going to make -15, right? So -6 minus 12 square root 6. That's going to be -15. What's going to be left? 6. Last one. 900. 900, if I had a list long enough, 900 would actually be on my list. How do I know that? Well, take away the zeros. That's 9, right? 9's on my list. Is there anything with 2 zeros on my list? 100. They're both on my list, right? So let me try it. So just try it. Let's see. Instead of breaking it down, maybe I'll get lucky and it'll be something that's on my list. So I go square root 900. It's actually 30 times 30. If that was a decimal, then you would just break it down like you did 150. But instead of having to do all of that, we can just skip that step and say 30. So the square root of 300 or 900 is 30. When I multiply those two guys together, I get -150. 180, sorry. Last step, combine any like terms that you can. -6, -180, -186. They both have a square root of 6, so I add their coefficients and I get -27. Done. Okay. So I'm going to pass out the tape. And page 24, I'm going to give you one more problem to do like that, and then we'll be done. We will be done for today.